What's good, YouTube? It's your main man, AB the Hero, back again with another video. And I got a quick one for y'all today. So last week, a week and a half ago, there was this whole big to-do with Cam versus Jello, Is What It Is podcast versus the Way podcast. And I wanted to give some of my perspective on it. And as we do this, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to listen to some clips and I want to add some insights that I thought was interesting. All right. And so right off the bat, you begin to see that this is definitely a COE dispute, content over everything. And here's where you find that out. Let's go here. This is one thing that Cam said I think is important to start this whole thing off with.
Listen, to me, he didn't really diss. He said he only know that song, but I'm dissing you. You're not as good as you think, because if you're good, they find a way. Politics or no politics.
All right, so he start right here, right? He's not dissing me, I'm dissing you, right? And so right off the bat, why would you go out of your way to diss Jello Ball, especially if you claim you damn near don't even know his name, right? And we go back here to the video where it all started, and I want to start here and play this clip for y'all.
Two ball kids, pause. LiAngelo and Lonzo, we said we can't do nothing for him. We gave him a tryout.
Yeah.
I don't even know his name, no disrespect.
Gino.
Gino? The Ball? Gino Ball?
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried. We did everything we could for you, Gino. We can't do
something.
Yeah, we can't do it. We got to try out in China for you. That's all we got.
He's actually good.
He ain't NBA good, murder. He's not in the NBA. He would be in the NBA if he was good.
Yeah, nah.
All right, so right there, I think that this to me is what I wanted to talk about, right? Is you have Cameron, who is that whole segment was they were talking about whether Bryce was going to be better than Bronny, and somehow he wanted to use the Ball brothers as a comparison, right? They got two in the league. One didn't make it, so he not that good. He ain't NBA good. To me, I always hate when analysts project based on like, oh well, we won't know if Bryce is ready for the league until after he hits his senior year in college. Then we can see what he does. Then we can see how he does, senior year in high school and then his freshman year in college. And then we'll see if he gets drafted. And then if he gets drafted, then we know that he was NBA caliber. Like, to me, that's not an analysis. That's not a projection. That's just seeing what happens, right? And so I feel like that's essentially what he was doing. And then so he then extrapolated that onto LiAngelo Ball to say, if LaMelo made it and Lonzo made it and you didn't make it to the league, then that means that you're not talented enough to make it to the league. Completely taking away all of the things that potentially could have happened and all of that stuff, right? And to me, it's interesting because you can go to Cam, right? And he understands this, right? Listen to this clip from Cam.
Hit it. Look. 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't see nobody to pass. Murder mad at me. He throw the tantrum. I was hot. Now look, I make that shot. Mase, you go to college, I go to college, we go to the league overseas, whatever. Our career would have been over. You wouldn't have sold the 10 million records. I wouldn't have sold the records. I think I made the right choice. Hit or miss. He's still mad at me about this.
So essentially what you have in that clip is clip going back to when Cam and Mase was in high school hooping in some city championship or whatever. And he's saying that had I made that shot, it changes the trajectory of our lives, right? Us who have hoop dreams, Cam and Mase, right? We both go to college and we get picked out and we hopefully become NBA players. So the idea that your story and perspective and things that happen to you may change the way that you're perceived should ring true, right? And then so Jello goes on to say something about that here. Listen.
Nah, they bugging. They
I get to
bugging.
hear one.
You know,
Cameron, I don't know if we could say the song name on here, but That's all. That's what I remember. Thank you, bro, for giving me my little, give me my little shine, dog. Like, I'm gonna be real with y'all. Y'all don't know my story like that, so ain't nobody know what I go through, bro. They not here with me at the end of the day. So to say like, oh, he got a child in China, like, gang, you don't know what I did in the G League, boy. Like,
So it's essentially that, right? It's the same thing that Cam just said about him and Mace. We make this shot, our lives change. It's what Jello was saying here. You don't know my story. You don't know. Maybe if the stuff happened in China don't happen, maybe we get 3 ball brothers, right? There are times where you could be good enough to make the league in a perfect world, but in a not perfect world, you don't make it, right? I think you fast forward here. Lonzo has some sentiments that I think is interesting.
That's what I'm saying. If we
Nigga
was
said
at
Gino,
30
bro, let's just be
under,
real.
who
It
you know
ain't-
more, G or Mace, no disrespect, I think
And
more
I
people are
like
going to
Cameron,
say G.
bro.
You
Like,
feel me?
you feel me?
Anyways, I also think there's a bunch, not even a bunch, there's players in the NBA that are not as good as some players that are not in the NBA.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people in the
Like,
NBA
it's
would
a whole
testify
bunch
to
of
that.
other shit.
There's a lot of things that
To me, this, even if you're a New York City guy like Cameron, that sentiment makes sense, right? Everybody know Earl the GOAT, right? Everybody know that there's the Rucker Park legends who were hoopers out there, but not necessarily they didn't make it to the NBA for whatever circumstances. If you dig into Cameron's story and you hear some of the things that were pointing him to be an athletic superstar and then derailed him into rap career, you know that he would understand that as well. And so I think that, and that's not even just taking into account the fact that just straight up hoops, right?
go on other than just the player.
It's a lot of
It's the
outside
political
stuff that
side
nobody
that
know
nobody
about,
talks
bro.
Political opportunity,
Everybody got their own
situation.
path, bro.
There's a lot that goes into it. So I don't necessarily think that the 450 people or however many there is in the league are the very best people in the world. I don't believe that.
it's just situational fit.
Yeah, it's a bunch of things that go into it, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of what ifs.
It's a lot.
So your
It's a lot of
casual
unseen
person
stuff
talking
that
about
go
it
into
won't
this,
really
bro.
understand that
That's
because
what I'm
they're
gonna
not
say.
in it. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, like they're rappers. Like they don't really know how
You
basketball
can't
works.
even be
Right.
like, I can't even be mad like that. You feel me? Like he probably really
It's so crazy to me because I feel like the way that they handled this was such class and respect. I hate to use the word class because that's such a loaded term these days, but they really didn't want no smoke. And then so this is where this initial video here where Cameron goes off. This is a 9-minute clip of him just being in his feelings and an emotional, and then you begin towards the end of the clip to see that there's really content over everything. And then he starts to talk about how they being too nice to them, and this is how their podcast got popular, is going in on people and then taking advantage of them. And then it's also crazy because they act like they don't know his name and who he is. And then you mess around and tell his whole life story, you know, about everything that happened to him in China, you know, everything about that. You know, he didn't make the league, you know, all of this stuff, but you don't know a lot of the key details. And I will say that this is one of the big things or issues I have with This Is What It Is podcast is I can't even say I got a real issue with it, but I do think that one of the things that will elevate them over time is that they have a very big platform that they're generating. And part of what they do is just no research, no info. We just talking. And what I end up seeing is a lot of clips reposted as fact when these just two dudes just shooting the shit. You know what I mean? And so shoot the shit and all of that stuff. But when you wrong, man, I guess it's in the name. It is what it is. But there's another clip we might talk about with Angel Reese where they were talking about her and Cam is trying to give her advice, but he is misquoting her completely in the way that he's giving the advice and then making it into something else. So it is what it is, man. And so you got this response from Jello.
with Lonzo Ball. Right, hold on real quick.
I think
What's
this is
up,
the
y'all?
part
It's
here.
Jello from the Way Podcast with Lonzo Ball.
The Way Podcast with you ain't got to do that, bro. It's the Way Podcast. You up there? Your name heavy in the streets. You ain't got to sign it off like it's the Jeff T podcast.
Wait, hold on real quick. Put my shades on for these niggas.
He essentially addressed a bunch of the stuff that they have for him. We ain't gotta listen to it. I know you saw it. And then they come back with a 2 minute, 42
Y'all
minutes,
wanna
50-second
address it?
clip, basically
Y'all wanna talk
tapping
about
out
it?
What's the message?
It was your boy Gino.
and
but
saying
Jello
we ain't
Ball,
gonna,
he had a
we
lot
don't
to
want to
say
argue
the
about
ball.
what Tito
Yeah.
and kind of throwing some other insults. But what you begin to see is that I think what they did here is realize that they are half stepping on the game, right? They understand that the problem is that once you start to go into where their dreams were versus where their dreams are, you're comparing a guy who's on trajectory to a guy who is at the end, right? So you got Jello who's 25, and then you got Mase and Cam who are 50 plus, right? And so they're trying to say, well, you stole some stuff in China, but you could go down the history of these two dudes and see how many times they got in trouble for random stuff and ask yourself why. But that's what I got for y'all, man. If you're interested, click this other video here and you'll hear what Shaq had to say about to Angel Reese about how he can fix the WNBA and get my insights on that. It's your main man, AB the Hero. We out. Peace.